15 of Slim Chicken's 17 signature dipping sauces are, according to a new lawsuit, not made in-house at all. They're mass-produced by a third party and shipped in, pre-packaged, to every single store. That's not a rounding error. That's 88% of the house-made sauce wall being, allegedly, a marketing decision wearing a chef's apron. Wait, so the sauce isn't homemade? No. Even the ranch? Especially the ranch. The chipotle one that tastes kind of like your grandma's? Your grandma, it turns out, works at a co-packing facility in the Midwest, and she's very fast at her job. And that's just the sauce. There's also a chicken problem and a math problem, and buried in 140 pages of legal filing, a genuinely fascinating question. What does the word fresh actually mean? Not what you think it means. What it legally means. Because apparently, there's a difference, and one Arkansas-based 290-location fried chicken chain is currently finding out the hard way. Let's dissect this. Slim Chickens started in Fayetteville, Arkansas in 2003, doing exactly what a good regional chicken chain should do. Slow growth, loyal customers, tenders. Then, somewhere in the 2000s and 10s, it decided 100 locations wasn't enough and went full expansion mode. Franchise deals, national ad campaigns, over 290 locations and counting, which is generally what a franchise is supposed to do. Grow, multiply, turn one good chicken tender into 290 good chicken tenders, simultaneously, forever. But growth needs franchisees. And franchisees need to be convinced to hand over, in this specific case, more than $15 million. So, naturally, you tell them a story. A good one. Reliable sales, reliable supply, reliable everything. And in June of 2025, one of those franchisees, a multi-unit operator running 10 locations across Missouri, Kentucky, and Illinois, filed a 140-page lawsuit arguing that story wasn't just optimistic. It was, allegedly, fiction, with a signature line at the bottom. That franchisee doing business as Our Solution is run by a guy named Gary Grew. Not new to this, not some overexcited first-timer who watched one video about passive income and mortgaged his house. Multi-unit, multi-state, the kind of operator franchisors are supposed to want. Which, honestly, makes the lawsuit's central claim land a little harder. If the corporate story wasn't holding up even for an experienced operator with 10 locations and $15 million on the table, what exactly was it holding up for? First, the fresh problem. For years, Slim Chicken's entire brand promise was two words: fresh, never frozen. Not a slogan, a pillar. The kind of thing painted on drive-through windows. Here's the thing about the word fresh, though. It's not just a vibe. The USDA actually defines it for poultry with an honest-to-God number. Any bird or part of a bird stored below 26 degrees Fahrenheit legally stops being fresh and starts being frozen. That's it. That's the whole rule. One number, one word, one very expensive line to cross. And according to the lawsuit, in 2023, Slim Chickens crossed it, mandating a company-wide switch to frozen, pre-marinated chicken without, allegedly, updating the whole fresh, never frozen thing plastered across every restaurant. Franchisees were reportedly told to install new storage and thawing equipment at about $10,000 a location so they could correctly store the chicken that was no longer legally fresh and thaw it over a 3-day process before it could even hit a fryer. The lawsuit claims this did exactly what you'd expect. Smaller tenders, more waste, and customers noticing enough to complain about it directly. We're talking inconsistent texture, the specific, universally recognized taste of something that spent 3 days thinking about being chicken before it actually became chicken again. Which brings us back to the sauces. Remember, 15 of 17. Slim Chickens sells its dipping sauces as house-made, a phrase that sounds regulated, official, maybe even inspected by a guy with a clipboard. It is none of those things. Housemaid isn't a USDA term. It's not defined anywhere in federal code. Legally, it means whatever the company wants it to mean, right up until a judge disagrees. And according to the lawsuit, what it actually meant for most of the menu was made somewhere else by someone else, shipped to the store in a bag. 2 homemade sauces, 15 not. Think of it like ordering a home-cooked meal at a restaurant, paying home-cooked meal prices, and then finding out the entire kitchen is just a very convincing microwave with a chef's hat glued on top. Nobody's mad you microwaved it. Everyone's mad you called it homemade. So here's the running scoreboard so far. Fresh, legally definable, allegedly crossed. Housemaid, legally undefined, allegedly meaningless. Keep that pattern in mind. It's going to come up again. Now, the lawsuit doesn't stop at chicken and sauce. It also claims Slim Chickens rejected the franchisee's proposed store locations twice for being the wrong design, specifically end cap style buildings, which would be a perfectly normal business call, except the lawsuit alleges Slim Chickens turned around and approved end cap locations for other franchisees in other states around the same time. Not illegal, necessarily, just inconsistent in a way that's hard to explain with a straight face in a deposition. And it's not a small ask either. A single Slim Chickens location can run well over $1 million to build. Getting told, wrong shape, try again, isn't a shrug-it-off inconvenience. It's a very expensive game of architectural Simon Says, played with someone else's $15 million. By the time all of this was compiling, the franchisee says he'd sunk over $15 million into building these locations and had to spend an additional $3.3 million just keeping the doors open, covering payroll, operations, the actual cost of staying alive as a business. Money the lawsuit says wouldn't have been necessary if the original sales projections had been, real. $15 million, for context, is not oops, minor miscalculation money. That's sell property, remortgage things, explain some very uncomfortable numbers to your spouse money. Slim Chicken's response to all of this: categorical denial. The company says the lawsuit is an attempt to shift blame for one franchisee's long-standing, well-documented performance issues, and filed a motion to dismiss, arguing the complaint is mostly, and I'm doing my best legal impression here, conclusory allegations dressed up as facts. Which brings us to word number 3, puffery. In Slim Chicken's defense, they lean on the idea that some of this, the confidence, the growth talk, the glowing sales pitch, isn't a promise. It's puffery. A real legal term, meaning exaggeration so obvious, so expected, that no reasonable person could mistake it for a guarantee. Courts allow puffery. They just don't allow fraud wearing puffery's jacket. And figuring out where one ends and the other begins is, as of this recording, still very much a live question in an Arkansas courtroom. Somewhere, a judge is currently required by law to sit with a straight face and determine the precise emotional weight of the word lucrative in a sales brochure. That is an actual professional responsibility someone has right now. So, fresh, legally defined, allegedly ignored. Housemaid, legally undefined, allegedly abused. Puffery, legally protected, currently on trial for impersonating a promise. 3 words, 3 completely different legal statuses, and one lawsuit trying to sort out which is which. Here's the bigger pattern, though, and it's not really about chicken. When you buy a franchise, you're handed a document called a franchise disclosure document, specifically a section called Item 19, which is supposed to lay out real, honest financial performance expectations. In theory, this is the safety net. The thing that stops a company from just saying, "Trust us, you'll make millions," and walking away. In practice, according to this lawsuit, and frankly, a long list of franchise lawsuits before it, Item 19 can be worded so carefully, so full of caveats and cherry-picked comparisons, that it tells you everything and nothing at the same time. Franchisees say they were shown extrapolated best week sales numbers dressed up as annual projections, which is a little like judging a marathon by someone's first 50 meters. And Slim Chickens isn't alone in this particular courtroom genre either. Franchise lawsuits over exactly this kind of gap, glossy sales pitch versus grim spreadsheet reality, have become close to a recurring subplot across the entire fast food industry lately. Different logos, different chicken, suspiciously similar 100-page legal documents. Nobody's chicken here is poisoned. Nobody's in physical danger. This isn't that kind of story. It's the much quieter, much more common kind. The gap between the pitch and the paperwork, and how far a company can legally stretch words like fresh before a franchisee's bank account notices the difference. So, is Slim Chickens legally required to keep every sauce recipe locked in a back room? No. Is fresh, never frozen allowed to mean frozen, then thawed for 3 days? That's currently what a judge in Washington County, Arkansas, is being asked to decide. Right now, Slim Chickens has filed to dismiss the case entirely, arguing there's no fraud here, just one underperforming franchisee looking for someone else to blame. Either way, next time a menu tells you something is fresh or house-made, maybe don't take the chalkboard's word for it. Ask what it legally has to mean. Very often, the honest legal answer is nothing at all. Or, if you're a franchisee about to sign a 9-figure development deal, maybe hire a lawyer who's allergic to the word puffery. If you liked this one, there's more where that came from. Subscribe, hit the bell, and if you want to help me keep digging through 140-page lawsuits so you don't have to, consider supporting the channel. Links below. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.